we said we were going to change, and we said we were going to work on things, and things were going to get better. And within like a week, we're back to the same fighting, the same arguing.
Welcome back to another episode of Daddy Issues. Our guest today is going to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about his story.
Hey everybody, my name's Jacob. I go by Jacobrikai online. I'm a musician now by trade, but I'm here to talk about my kids. I'm the father of two beautiful children, though I like to tell people that I raised five. When I met my ex-wife, she had three children from two different people, and I don't mean that to talk shit or say any bad things. Sorry for cursing. I mean it because I think that it's much harder to be a stepfather than it is to be a father, and I think that we so easily dismiss people because they've had relationship issues in the past. And when I was growing up, my dad wasn't around. So, what better practice to be a dad than to be a stepfather? But when I met my ex-wife, she had two kids, or three kids rather, and it was just this whirlwind of things. I'll give you a little background about me. I'm in my 30s. I'm a disabled veteran. Ellen actually is my service dog. I'm doing a lot better these days, so she's just a dog most of the time. But when I got out of the army, things were really hectic. I had moved all the way across the country to be here in the military in Washington, and I met my ex one night at a club a couple months before I was getting out of the military. When I got my discharge paperwork, it was like, oh, I got to make a big decision here. Am I going to go back to where I'm from on the East Coast, or am I going to stay here and try and start a life? And I guess you could tell how that went. So I stayed here. At the time, man, I didn't know what I was going to do when I got out of the military. I was a forward observer, which is a combat operations role, like a radio operator, technically the kind of person who coordinates trajectory of fire onto targets. And that doesn't really translate into like a normal day job. You don't go do that in the real world. So I got a job. Got out of the military on October 1st, and on November 1st, I started a job at a call center. So I just started working at a call center, just taking calls completely outside of what I was used to, but a customer service role, easy enough. And at that time, my ex-wife she's working at daycare, and I was just wanted to really contribute to the household. We were just doing like family things, like Thanksgiving and baking things. And she got pregnant, and she had three boys. So she got pregnant. She was super excited. I was super excited. Growing up, my mom was a single mom who had some issues. My dad was a drug addict, so he wasn't around very much. Even though I spent some time with him when I was older, in the core parts of my childhood, he wasn't around. So I wanted nothing more than to be a good father, to like demonstrate the capabilities of what a good man could be. I jumped right into it. Gosh, being a stepdad's and just a job in itself. My ex-wife was pregnant, and I was helping her raise her children. The interesting thing about it, and this is something that I talk about with all my friends, is there's a huge age difference. So I know that there's no hard and fast rules about relationships, but my ex-wife was 10 years older than me. And as a matter of fact, her oldest son was closer in age to me than her. And I always thought that that was unique. He was 6 years younger than me. So there's this juxtaposition between like me, this 20-year-old guy trying to raise, a teenager, and trying to be a dad to someone who's like taller than me. Like you and me might be in the same school. So it was really an interesting dynamic, but I did it nonetheless.
Did they all like kind of take you in and you were cool with all of them, or was there any issues with them
It was,
accepting you?
yeah, I mean, it was, they hadn't really had any parenting either. So her two oldest were from her first marriage, first partner, and they had never really encountered a man that was interested in like really fathering them or parenting them. So it was this weird dynamic, and a lot of it was my ex kind of kept this bubble around them. So like when it got to the difficult parts of parenting, the dadding, like hey, you need some discipline in your life. She's very protective of them, and that kind of emboldened them to do whatever they want, say whatever they want. And then the middle child, his dad was around, but only on the weekends, which is fine. I mean, I get that's what the court says. Whatever kind of parent you want to be, that's fine. But I did a lot of the core parenting, the driving to school, the homework, the projects, things like that. So it was a really difficult uh dynamic, but we persevered. And of course, it got more difficult. You know, there was this from going from having these kids by herself, and now you've got me, a new man, and a baby coming. Things got really interesting. But while I was doing that, I was working full time. Uh, for about 2 years after I got in the military, I was working at a call center. She was working at a daycare, so we were just struggling. How the struggle is. We're both working kind of junky jobs, just trying to get by. And I was like, man, I gotta make a change. I gotta pull it together for this family. So I started going to night school. So I was working full time and then going to community college full time. Um, doing that while she was in working at daycare. Things were good. We were moving forward, but not everything was perfect. And I think that that's something that a lot of men and a lot of adults in general don't realize. Like when you're in the core of a relationship, it's like there's this that you get to these checkpoints. You're like, all right, are we moving forward with this, or do I need to reassess this? And it's so easy to keep saying, no, we're just going to move forward. Now we're just going to push through. So we got to these roadblocks where when you meet someone at a nightclub, conversely to when you're meeting someone at church or like even on a dating app, you don't really have any information about them, not even the best information. Like on a dating app, someone's like telling you all the best things about themselves, but at a nightclub, it's just like, all right, you danced good, that's good. You
Yeah.
looked at me, so yeah, you're in. So we ran into a bunch of different issues, communication styles and talking styles. And that's when the road started getting rough. I unfortunately didn't really know what a healthy relationship looked like. So growing up, like my parents, they fought, they hit each other, they threw each other downstairs. I don't know what it looks like to have a healthy communication style or to deal with struggles or, pain or disagreements in a healthy way. But despite doing my best, we had an incredible amount of issues, and my ex-wife unfortunately had some insecurity issues. And don't get me wrong, I was not perfect, and I think that's what a lot of people try to measure these things like it's you that's messing up, it's not me that's messing up, when in reality, like, all humans are broken. We all need therapy. So I was working full time and I was in school, and the real issue that we ran into is that because of issues with communication and parenting styles and fighting styles, me and my ex were in constant contact. So we would spend, even when I was at work, it was like every couple minutes I had to check my phone. We were fighting about something, we were talking about something, we were planning something. There was no time to just be alone and process things. When you're a parent, it's important to stay in communication. Obviously, there's a lot going on, but there was an extreme lack of personal autonomy, a lack of self-value, a lack of self-worth. So we spent most of our time fighting about things or doing things for the kids, not really getting to know each other, not really spending time with each other, or thinking about each other's wants and needs and desires. We had a lot of issues surrounding intimacy. I think that that's a huge thing that people run into. It's a difficult thing to navigate, right? I mean, you definitely want someone that's sexually compatible with you, but at the same time, like, that can't be the core of the relationship. So it's hard. It's hard. You're going into a relationship, you don't want that to be the core, but it's important. You want to focus on communication skills and traumas and therapies and healing. But that was a big issue that we had. So when I was in college, of course, there was a lot of young girls. My ex-wife, 10 years older than me. I was young, I was attractive. Girls like dudes that were in the military. I mean, I really actually wasn't doing anything. I knew that my dad and my mom had a bunch of problems in their relationships surrounding infidelity and drug use and things. So I was really on the straight and narrow. Regardless of that, I was accused of a bunch of things, and it was really hard, because someone who just had a baby, someone who's got a young child, they see their partner changing their life, they're getting a new job, they're getting a college degree. There's people that are drawn to their energy. I can see how easy it is to fall into this idea that they're being unfaithful.
Right, and the tough thing, though, is you're doing it for your family. You know what I mean? Like, you're bettering your life, trying to get this education to get another job to do it for your family.
Right, and that's it. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a huge thing. I think about this. I think some of it might stem from, jealousy or insecurity. And even after me and my ex, we had a terrible breakup separation, but even after that, she accused me, and she raised the issue that I got to do all these things. I got to work full time and get degrees while working full time, while she had to stay at home and raise the kids. I mean, it simply wasn't the case, but it can feel like that. I mean, like, a woman can feel like it's her job to do that. But yeah, I was doing it. I was doing it for everyone. Like, it wasn't like I was like, "Hey, I'm leaving you. Yeah, like, I'm going to change my life." So these things were happening. We've got young children, and I'm in the school full time. And as I've started to work on myself, of so I'll circle back real quick. So the reason I actually got out of the military was I got sexually assaulted. So I got out of the military a little bit early, for that, and having to deal with that, had trauma from that. So I got out of the military early. So when I started to, I mean, right when I got out of the military, anyone that paid attention to me, I was like, wow, I need someone to support me because I'm terrible and I don't love myself. But when I started, like, all right, well, maybe I can be successful. I was a supervisor at the customer service place that I was working at now. I was training people. I was moving up. I was getting a college degree. So, I was like, yeah, yeah, I can do this. So as my confidence grew, I started making friends, and that caused some jealousy issues. So we got to this point, this head point, where I was working on myself. I had just run a 5K. Like, I hated running when I was in the military, but I was like, man, like, this is kind of fun. So I just run a 5K. Like, I was getting a hold of my life and my features and my wants and desires. And it seemed that the more autonomy I got, the less control my ex had over me, the harder it was to maintain a healthy relationship. So I remember it so vividly. I was volunteering at a school graduation. The place that I worked did a lot of volunteer work in the community. And I was volunteering at a school graduation, just stupid stuff, like directing people where to sit, putting chairs away. And I didn't turn my phone off. I had my phone on silent. And when I was there for a couple hours. This was before, like, Find My iPhone, otherwise I was probably going to be tracked. I was there for a couple hours, wasn't far away. And when I looked at my phone towards the end, I had a bunch of texts from my ex that, she was 1,000% sure I was cheating on her. She didn't know where I was. She was so upset. She was throwing my stuff out on the porch. And I was like, all right, well, this is a problem, but this is also like, I don't want to keep doing this. This has already been tumultuous. There's been several times where I said to myself, I want to leave. This isn't healthy. I'm not being recognized here. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna come get my stuff, and I'm gonna go do something else. So that's what I did. My parents were still alive at the time, so I flew back to New Jersey, where I'm from. Excuse me. I spent some time with my mom, my family, like, reconnected with them, and realized that, like, hey, I might be okay by myself. I don't really need nobody. Lots of people have uh children with someone and they move on. At this point, me and my ex weren't married, so it was like, yeah, whatever. And this is where we get to the hard part. This is where a lot of people are gonna be able to start resonating with this. I told my ex, like, hey, my daughter's 2, and my parents haven't met them. She never met my family. I would like to take her with me to New Jersey and bring her back. Now, obviously, this is the different side of the country, and there are people that kidnap their kids. Don't get me wrong, but that's not me. And I had offered to, like, do a parenting plan. I had offered to do whatever she wanted, give collateral to bring my own kid somewhere. And she just refused. And unfortunately, the court system, you know, no matter if someone comes in there and says something about you, you're guilty of it until they
Hmm.
decide that you're an okay human and can see your kid on a part-time basis. No, I wasn't gonna go to court. I wasn't gonna call the police. But I spent a couple weeks in New Jersey. I spent some time fighting with her, like, hey, this is my child too. Like, I want to see them. But I didn't give in. I didn't lament, and it's difficult. It's difficult then because you have this kid, this being, and not just my biological kid, but my stepchildren too. Like, that's, I have a very, yeah, I had a relationship with them. You have these kids that are, like, they want you and they miss you, and you're trying to stand up for yourself and represent your own best interests. But still, I was toughing it out. I had moved in with my buddy. I had my own place, and she's just refusing to let me see my child. And at that point, I was very young, and I wasn't going to call the police. I wasn't going to involve CPS, and I didn't really know what to do. So I was just struggling with that. I told her, hey, can I just come by the house and hang out with my daughter for a little bit? And she said, sure. So I met her at the house. She was living in the house where we both lived together. I was still paying the rent. This is a common theme, right? The guy moves out and then is providing for this family while also trying to provide for himself. So I'm sleeping on an air mattress in my buddy's house on the floor. She's in this house where I'm still paying the rent. But I meet her there, and she leaves. She promises to leave and give me some time with my kid. And I'm hanging out with my daughter, who I haven't seen in a couple weeks, and it's just playing toys, and she comes back and she kind of corners me in the house. And this is when I was like, man, like, what am I gonna do? You know? So you can't push them out the way, So I was upstairs in the bedroom, and I'm playing with my daughter, and she comes in and she's got the other three kids, the older boys, and I'm like, I can't make a scene. I'm not gonna call the police because they're gonna come arrest me. Period. No matter what I say, they're coming for me, and it's gonna be a big problem. So I'm there with my daughter. She's looking at me. She obviously needs me. She shows up and she's like, I'm not leaving till you talk to me. And I'm like, all right, what? I You have no options. Like, I'm not gonna push her out the way. I'm not gonna fight with this person in front of my kids. So I decided to talk to her. And this is when I really tried to like start turning my. I didn't actually start turning my life around here, but this is when I decided, like, all right, this is what being an adult looks like, right? It's like I have to make a very serious decision as to what's more important than me. Like right now is being single and fighting this woman and finding myself and growing something I need to do on my own? Or is it something that I could try and do with this person and maybe give them another chance because they were making a mistake? Maybe they'll change. And that maybe they'll change is such a common theme. I know that it comes up all the time for women. Like they ask women, would you rather have the bear? But I'd rather have the bear sometimes.
I just heard that saying the other day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would choose the bear sometimes. A common theme throughout this relationship is like, is this person going to change? Maybe one day they're going to walk past the mirror and they're going to see themselves and they're gonna be like, damn, I've been messing up. But I had hoped that maybe with time of me actually leaving and spending some time apart, things would be different. So despite my absolute gut wrenching feelings to move on and move forward, we reunited. I moved back in and I decided, all right, I'm going to try and prioritize this again. I'm going to do this a second time. So I moved back in, and this time things started getting more serious. We said we were going to change, and we said we were going to work on things, and things were going to get better. And within like a week, we're back to the same fighting, the same arguing. And this is where this is where I get into the hard part of my life. I hate to talk about, I don't want to call it non-consensual, but it was. My ex-wife had an IUD. So after we had my daughter, we had four kids, I was like, we're not doing this again. So she got an IUD, and that was like, all right, now we don't have to deal with that. But after the first breakup, a couple months into it, and we had talked about it, and she has used this as a reason before. We had talked about, maybe we'll have another kid someday. I really wanted a son of my own, and not to say that I don't consider my stepchildren my children and my son, because they are, but it's just a different kind of relationship. And I'm sure anyone with children and stepchildren recognize that. I love them very much as my own, but the ability to have a son that looks like you and has your name is incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we had talked about it and we had joked about it, but she had an IUD, right? That's a very big decision to remove that. But for her, it wasn't. So after a couple months of, just trying to work it out and find it out, she got pregnant somehow. And I didn't find out till later that she actually removed her IUD herself. She admitted to me. Yeah, yeah, she admitted to me that she did because, I had joked about it. So it was my fault, of course. But she removed it herself and she got pregnant. And again, what am I going to do? What
Right.
am I going to do? I'm going to go to court. What am I going to tell the judge that she trapped me? I went and actually got a vasectomy when I was in my early 20s. Like I can't foster children with people that aren't giving me consent. She actually, in the beginning, she had told me that it fell out. And again, what am I going to, I'm not going to challenge the birth of my child. I'm not going to deny this thing. So she got pregnant with Rowan after our first breakup. We got married after our first breakup. We went to Vegas and got married. So now, we're married and she's pregnant, and, we got to do this. So I finished my associates. This is when I was getting my associates. I got a better job. You get that lifestyle creep, man. You get a better job. You get a bigger house. You get a nicer car. You got more kids. She had, unfortunately, the cost of childcare is incredible. So it was cheaper, and a mutual decision. I will say that she left her job working on a daycare to care for the kids full time. So now I'm the only breadwinner, and it's all on me. So I got a better job. I was working at goodness, I was working at a telecom provider, like a cable company, downtown. I was doing that, and I was like, all right, well now I have another kid coming. I can't work any more nonsense jobs. I gotta get this money. Yeah, we gotta get this bread. So I enrolled in online school. Know you've heard of Western Governors University, a great online school. They make sure they give you promo for that. I got my bachelor's in IT, and we were just, we're in the mix of it. We're in the thick of it. I think there's a song about that, but we're in the thick of it. We're working on our relationship. We're moving forward. Things aren't really getting better, but they're masked by how busy we are. I'm
Yeah.
working full time. I'm going to school full time. She's caring for kids full time. We're going on vacations every year that we can't afford. We're buying a bunch of shit we can't afford. We're moving to a bigger house. The kids need stuff. The kids need everything. So it's really easy to get deep in a relationship, like, because no one's working on the relationship. We're just living life. Things progressed there. My son was born. He started growing. I finished my bachelor's degree. I got a better job. I started doing my master's degree in 2020, at the end of 2019. And throughout all this time again, we're just kind of living our lives, not really addressing the problems with our relationship. We don't really interact. We don't really know each other. We still don't know each other. We never talked about hopes and dreams or what the other person wants or how the other person's going to progress. Really struggled with was later into our relationship. I found out, and this is why meeting someone at a club sometimes isn't the best idea. I found out, maybe 6 or 7 years into our relationship that my ex had never graduated high school. And that's not to knock her. That's knocking the American education system. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. The America is messed up. We got our priorities messed up. But it's also other side of the coin. Very easy to get a GED. Very easy to get a high school diploma as an adult. I even offered against my best, and I was like, if you get the correspondence course books, I'll just do them for you. It'll take me 5 minutes. But some people, my therapist told me this. When I was in the thick of getting separated, some people aren't ready to start their journey, and that's not on me. So we were in the thick of it, and we were finding out things about each other as we were coming to a head. I was progressing, trying to figure things out. She's kind of focused on herself. She's a stay-at-home mom, not really staying at home momming, just kind of watching TV all day. And again, that's just some people's prerogatives. But then COVID came, and I'm sure you guys remember. If you asked me, I'd still say it was 2019.
Mhm.
But COVID came, and COVID was like everyone in America already lives on edge. But COVID came, it's like, let me just pour a little bit more into everybody's cup. Let me raise everybody's level just a little bit so all that extra stuff starts flowing out.
Yeah.
I just vividly remember so many people like going through extreme mental crises at this time. Like, this is crazy. Like, everyone's super stressed out that they're going to lose their family, they're going to lose their kids, they're going to lose their lives. So everyone really started addressing things. And on top of that, people were home. Like, you got to go home and hang out with your family and the people that you have been ignoring for a long time. You got to go deal with them. So good luck. So COVID came, and I had to stop school because for whatever reason, and we were really just dealing with each other now. And that's when things started intensifying. Um, I had for a while I had been in therapy. The VA, despite what everyone says, and some people have bad opinions of it, the VA provides excellent care, at least to me in my situation. I had been dealing with therapy from, my sexual trauma from being sexually assaulted. I had been working on myself. I was seeing a psychiatrist. I got diagnosed with ADHD as an adult, so I was dealing with that, getting my life on track. I was getting healthy again. I had done STP. If you don't know what that is, it's a bike ride from Seattle to Portland, which is about 200 miles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a very serious like event thing. I had to train for it for months. I got a Peloton. I was really, really getting after it. So COVID came and kind of disrupted all that. And I was like, all right, we gotta like we can't do this. Like, everyone in America's stressed out. We got real good health insurance. Like, we got to fix our relationship. So I was in therapy myself for a while, and for a couple months, a couple years before we split up, I was doing intense therapy. So I did, groups and weekly therapy,
And it
counseling.
was just you, not she wasn't in therapy?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it was just me working on me. And I mean, for the again, she certainly had things that she needed to go to therapy about, and I don't want to put her business out there, but she had been in some rough relationships too that probably had some unresolved trauma. Unresolved trauma is a nasty thing. So I was in therapy, I was working on me, and I was like, all right, we gotta let's try like group therapy or group counseling. And she wasn't really feeling that. She had this idea, and my kids unfortunately grew up with this idea that therapy doesn't work or talking people doesn't work. It's like, what is talking to someone going to do for me? Well, have you tried it? Despite that, we somehow got in because we were not group therapy. We got in couples therapy because we were just at the end of our ropes. So in couples therapy, it's really interesting. I don't know if you've ever been in a therapy with someone else, but you got to get to know the person first. So they got to qualify you first, right? So you
Hmm.
the first session or two, it's like, well, I don't know who's telling the truth here. And then it starts to get to, all right, well, I should challenge you on this. You sound like you're being controlling. You sound like you're not listening. So we started seeing a couples therapists. The first one, we got to the point where as soon as my ex started getting challenged on her perspectives. And that's not to say I wasn't participating. Like I definitely had flaws and things that I need to work on. And I still do. Everyone does. But when we started getting into the like, all right, it's time to do some self work. It's time to, do some retrospection. She left, she walked out of at least two sessions just to lock herself in the bathroom and cry for whatever reason.
Well, it's tough when both of you guys aren't on the same page. Like, you're definitely wanting to change and wanting to do whatever, and she's not there yet. So it's hard to be like, you got to work on yourself, to get the relationship to back on track.
Right, right. And that's not conducive to healing, right? And I mean,
Right.
that's why like therapy is such a good thing. You have this third neutral party. I always say I've been dealing with the court a lot since then, but I wish there was an adult in the room, like someone to say, hey, what you guys doing? You both need to go to timeout. But yeah, I mean, when we got to the point where like the therapist is like, well, Jacob's going to therapy full time and Jacob's got a care team and Jacob's sees our other practitioner here every week. Maybe you should do that too. When it got to the like we both need to work and contribute is when she would shy away from. So we were seeing one couples therapist that, we're all right, we're going to see someone else now because I don't like this person anymore because they are holding me accountable. So we started seeing a second person, and the same thing. And we were getting to the third person, and in the midst of this is when things kind of started escalating. We had this big house, with 5 bedrooms that we didn't need. So I was like, I'm going to move into this office. We can just co-parent separately while we work this out. So I was like on my own, focused on myself. I just bought a bunch of new furniture. I had moved into the office. We had agreed that we were going to continue to live in this house together and like raise these kids, or figuring this out, whether it was separated or together. Um, and this is where I get to the ugly part of my life. So we had agreed to these things. Like the weekend, like I hadn't even built the bed that I bought at IKEA to furnish this office, that she agreed to this mutually beneficial situation. And I went to work one day and everything was fine. And I came home after work one day and her friend gave me a restraining order that said I couldn't go in my house. And it was just, you know, I had never been through anything like that. Like my dad, one of the last memories I have of my dad and my parents together was my dad pushed my mom down the stairs. I would never do anything to hurt anyone, especially my children, especially my spouse. So it was really, really interesting. But I got this restraining order and I couldn't see my kids. Like I couldn't go to my house. Like I had my dog with me because my dog was going to daycare. I was training her to be a service animal. So I've got my dog with me. I got none of my stuff. I don't have my medicine. I don't have my asthma medicine. I don't have any clothes. And I can't go in my house. And the police don't care. The judge doesn't care. So they give you this, you get served with this paperwork, and it's supposed to be this emergency hearing, but I got to wait 3 days. So I'm in a hotel with my dog. I got no clothes. I can't go to work. Like I'm devastated. And this is in the midst of COVID, so I'm already all jacked up. I'm just crying constantly. I've never spent more than like 3 days away from my children, traveling for work or doing something like that. So I can't see my kids. I can't talk to my kids. This paper says I can't contact my children, and I didn't know that, but I had actually I had messaged my son like on Facebook or something, and she called the police saying that I,
Wow.
that I violated the restraining order. And luckily they said, it doesn't cover that, but like she was really out to get me. And that was when I started to kind of wake up. And I mean, I still haven't woken up from that. But so I had this restraining order, and was in a pickle because this restraining order said that I couldn't talk to her. It said I was an abuser. She said that I was financially controlling her. So the crux of it was that towards the end of our breakup, I was making a lot of money. I was working a good job. I was getting VA benefits from the things that happened to me when I was in the military. So we were living a comfortable life, but we were spending 600 or so dollars a week at the grocery store. And I was really fast and loose with money before that. But when we were starting to separate and get our finances together, like, all right, we gotta like we can't spend 3 grand a month on groceries. Like we're not.
Right.
My name isn't Aaliyah. So I asked her to bring me a receipt. I was like, can you just bring receipts from the grocery store? Like, and she said that that was financially controlling her, and that was the crux of the allegations. So I couldn't see my kids, and I had this court hearing coming up. I hired this attorney, and unfortunately, because I still had to pay the rent, and I can't just stop caring for, the mortgage and the things that the kids need. I can't just withhold all my money because that it would be doing what you're accused of. So I got the most affordable lawyer I could find, which is sometimes a mistake. But before that, before I even got to hire a lawyer, I was like, let me go to this hearing myself and I'm just gonna explain what happened. Like, this is crazy.
Like this should be pretty obvious. Let me just tell my story and duh, you know.
Right, right. You got it, right? And then you find out later that most court cases, or a lot of court cases, are determined by what the judge ate that morning. But I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna be a normal person. Like, it's like we're going to the teacher when you get in a fight on the playground. I'm gonna tell you what happened, and you're gonna say, yeah, you're both stupid kids. This is stupid. But I went there, and unfortunately, I was really in my emotions, and in these emergency hearings, in these cases where someone can just go in and accuse you of anything, and you're guilty of it. They decided that whatever she said had some merit, and I couldn't see my kids. I could talk to them, but I couldn't see them. I couldn't go to. They wouldn't even let me go to the house to get my stuff, even with a police escort. They said I couldn't go, so I couldn't get my stuff. I couldn't. I haven't been. I haven't been in my house that I pay for, that I am a co-owner of since that day. Uh, but they gave us a new court date, and I started talking to the kids again, and this is when things escalated on my ex's part. So I was like, obviously this system isn't fair. I just want to circle back to like when after I got this restraining order, I it was the realest wake up call I ever had about being a brown guy in a system where women are in charge. Like when I got her paperwork from the court, they helped her fill it out. Right. So she went there and she laid all these accusations about me, and they helped her fill out the paperwork. They, allowed her mistakes, they allowed her grace, and then they took my kids away from me based on this woman making these egregious claims against me. And when I went there trying to get help, like I thought someone was going to spit on my face. Like I was the dirtiest, nastiest criminal, and it's crazy because like I got 3 degrees. I'm a veteran. Like I work across the street at the library. Me and you were great. Like you're my coworker, and these people just looked at me like I was like just a dog turd walking around. It was so telling that how easily words can steal someone's self-worth and their freedom and their autonomy.
With no proof.
Right, with no,
Yeah.
like, no, you don't need any evidence, and I'll tell you a funny story about that in a few minutes when I get to my current situation. So, with no evidence, I got accused of these things, and they granted this. So now I can't see my kids. So the original accusation is just control, and that I'm financially controlling her. No, no, no accusations of abuse or physical violence or harm or anything like that in the first thing, right? But now that's not cutting it no more, because now the judge is like, well, you said he's just controlling your money. Well, now you're separate. You don't got to really worry about that anymore. So I hire one attorney. I have some issues with him. I get a second attorney, but in the weeks that follow, there's additional things being added on. So that's another thing that's crazy, right? So you show up and you accuse me of financially controlling you or financial manipulation, and then as you get further into it, it's like, all right, well, now you're accusing me of hitting my kids. Now you're accusing me of being a pervert, and it feels gross even saying that. But I couldn't go in my house to get my stuff, so she was going through my stuff, and she went through my records, my VA records, my medical records from my psychologist with the VA, and she's highlighting all the things I told my psychologist in confidence. Like, where's HIPAA?
Hmm.
So she's bringing to the court things that I told my psychologist that have never been a problem before. These are things I told my psychologist years ago, but now she's accusing me of these things. And what am I going to do? Now it's public record. You can Google my name.
It's crazy how far and deep a woman will go to get that control or put you down, whatever it might be. It is unbelievable.
Yeah, no, and it's just like it's just flailing for everything, and it's like the kids are saying that I hit them. Like, are you crazy? Like, where is this coming from? Like he told his therapist that he has intrusive thoughts, so he's dangerous. Like, well, everyone has intrusive thoughts. Have you ever heard the call of the void? But my crux was my biggest point was that how can this person retroactively accuse me of things after they spent this much time in a relationship with me? Like, so I've raised your kids and my own, and now I'm a monster all of a sudden. And the courts entertain that. And it's like I don't even know where to begin with that. Like, there's no adults in the room sometimes with this. So I'm getting accused of all these things. I have to do a forensic psychological interview. I don't know if you know what that is, but I had to pay a guy whose credentials take up half the page in 12. All he does is interview people that are accused of crazy things. I have to do like specialized tests, like personality inventories. I have to do interviews. I have to send him every therapist note I ever have. I have to talk to him about everything that happened to me in my childhood. Like, I've got to submit now to this guy. So instead of me controlling someone else, I'm being controlled and manipulated by this person to my weakest state. But despite all that, I'm passing these things with flying colors. Like, I'm a normal guy. Like, I work at the library. That's it. So he says, there's nothing wrong with you. You might have some problems with communication, which everybody does. I grew up in the ghetto. My dad wasn't around. Like, sometimes I tell it like it's real. Sometimes I don't give a shit that you're crying. And I go cry. I cry a lot.
Right.
But, he recommended I do therapy, every week. And that was really it. He said, maybe you need to do drug and alcohol counseling because she accused you of smoking weed all the time. But that's weird because she let you drive the kids around, kept maintaining a life with you. So I beat all these things. And then we agree. She dropped, like, the court doesn't even intervene. Like, she doesn't want to spend money on a lawyer. Her first lawyer fired her for just making wild accusations. She doesn't want to spend money on a lawyer. I've got an attorney, and now I'm at this now. I got to remember, at this point, I haven't seen my kids in months. Like, I can only talk to them on the phone. I'm in a different state, living with my mom. Yeah, I'm a grown man living with my mom, paying the mortgage at a house I can't live at, paying thousands of dollars in child support, and there's nothing I can do. So I agree to drop it not to drop it, but to an agreement that's not as beneficial as it could be for me, because I don't want to fight this out right now. Like, I just want to see my kids. I want to get back to my life. The library's been letting me work remotely by the grace of God. So I haven't lost my job. I finished my master's degree in the midst of this. So now I've got a master's degree. I got another certificate in the midst of this. So now I've got 4 degrees. I'm shining. Like, I just want to have my kids back. I just want to continue my life. So she agrees to drop it after all the things I was accused of. She just decided that, yeah, I don't care about those things. You can have custody of your kids again. We don't have to prove anything else. But I agree to this interesting relationship. Check this out, guys. Look for interesting parenting plans. I saw someone online asking about this interesting parenting plan. Mine was hopefully changing soon. It's the second Monday to the third Monday of every month. So I get this core of 7 days and I get 2 extra days. So I agreed to this because I was in a different state and I was like, I don't want to go back there and live with these people. I don't want to really be around this person. I want to have the autonomy to live other places. And I had got this apartment here in Washington. So I figured I'll just keep an apartment and I'll go see my kids. I'll have them for weekends during, like, peak times with my 2 extra days and my 1 week, and then I'll have them during school days. And that was really important to me because, like, I think a lot of dads get into the idea, like, I was watching a comedian the other night. He said kids are only fun on the weekends. There's no homework. There's only, you're going outside playing video games. But it was really important to me to have time with my kids where I could take them to school, where I could do homework with them, where they could see me, make dinner and make lunches. Like, that was super important to me. So I worked out this parenting plan. Those provisions were when I lived in Washington. If I lived outside the state, there's a lot of benefits to that. Like, she had to fly them to me. We had to split the cost. But we worked it out, and I started being able to see my kids again. Things were getting better. Things were continuing to improve. Um, but even paying an incredible amount of child support and spousal support, which is also quite an interesting paradigm. I want to talk about that just for a second. It's so interesting. I recently left my job at the library because I want to pursue music full time. And when I was talking to my attorney about it, he's like, "Well, we can't ask them to adjust your child support because they're going to say you're intentionally underemployed." Well, what about my ex, who's an adult and hasn't done
Right.
anything to improve her life or get a better job despite me paying her double the minimum wage for the last couple of years? Like, what about that? And they don't consider that. So I'm paying this egregious amount of child support, spousal support on top of that. But things are okay. Like I got this apartment. I don't really need a lot, like I go to work. I was going to work. I was dealing with my kids, volunteering at their school. Things were getting better for me. Um, and then, check this out. This is where things got heavy. So, I started having this relationship with my kids. I was flying. I was still living with my mom, because I was waiting for the divorce to finalize. So, still living with my mom, um, in New Jersey, flying here every couple weeks for 2 weeks with my kids, flying back.
Wow.
And yeah, and at that time I have a girlfriend in New Jersey who I've been with for a couple years. So I was trying to live my life. Like I've been put in this situation. I'm gonna make the best out of it. I don't mind flying. Melon's got a lot of miles on her. She enjoys it. So we were just doing it. I was training her to be my service animal. I got her certified and things. So we're on board. Like we were living the dream. We were really doing it. I mean, I wanted more time with my kids, and I was planning on working on that. But when the same weekend my divorce got finalized, it was June 2023. Went on a little celebration vacation with my girlfriend and her family, and when I came back from Florida, my mom was in the emergency room. My mom was in her 60s, or early 60s. And she went to the emergency room one day because she turned yellow. Uh, it's jaundice. So you turn yellow and like your eyes are yellow and your skin is yellow and it's your liver. Unfortunately, my mom, due to the inequities of her parents, was an alcoholic. It was obviously a problem with her liver. She was in the hospital and it was really heavy. I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna go back to Washington. You're an adult. I'm here for you. I love you. I support you. But I'm trying to focus on me and my life. But after they looked into it more, they started doing scans and stuff. It turned out she had pancreas cancer. Um, she got diagnosed with that, and now it was like, well, I can't leave my mom. I've been doing this for so long. I might as well, I could do it a little bit more, while she fights it out. Um, I stayed in New Jersey. I started caring for my mom, taking her to different things, and unfortunately, she passed away in January of last year. But it was about 8 months, 9 months of like chemo and just watching her kind of waste away and like dealing with that and dealing with every instance of inequity, or every opportunity that my ex had to make my life difficult. She would take advantage of it despite me doing my absolute best. So dealing with my mom, flying back and forth, and we had this agreement that I would pay child support directly, to her and not involve the state, which is fine because I mean, on top of that, I'm paying spousal support. Like we're talking. I'm not going to tell you how much it is. I don't care. I pay $2,000 a month in child support and $2,000 a month in spousal support. Right?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So we had agreed. I talked to her like I can't pay that all on the first of the month. So we were saying I'm going to pay part of it on the beginning of the month, and I'll pay part of it halfway through the month. But there was a point halfway through the month where she didn't get it on time, or like my paydays were messed up. So she called the state, and then they called me, and now they're hounding me for it. So now I got to pay them. So it's making my life super difficult, and I'm trying to just survive and get by. And every time, I want to do anything extra with the kids, or I want to bring the kids to see my mom, it's a constant fight and it's a constant battle. So dealt with that, and even in the midst of that, I'm still in therapy. I am enrolling in more courses. I'm just still trying to better myself. I'm hoping for a change. That was we're still in this 2-year period after we got divorced where I'm paying this spousal support and child support. So my mom is super sick. Things don't go as well as they could. I have to miss a couple holidays. So the first the Christmas of 2022, I couldn't see my kids because I had a restraining order. Christmas of 2023, my mom was in the ER, so I couldn't see my children. She was, throwing up, vomiting blood for a while, and she was getting closer to passing away. So I couldn't see them then, and there wasn't really a lot of grace. I know for me, and this is just me. If my ex's parents were sick, I would facilitate my children going there. I would do everything I
Of
could.
course.
Like,
Yeah.
why would you want to hurt the person? Like, why would you want to hurt your children's parent? Like, it's not it's not us. It's this triangle relationship. Why would you? It's like, imagine your kid's toy. You wouldn't throw away your kid's favorite toy, right? You wouldn't. Why would you want to hurt one of your kid's favorite person? But some people don't think like that. So just extremely difficult dealing with her, and I can't talk to my mom about it. You can't really talk to people about these things. You lead with all this crazy stuff, and people are like, ugh, what the hell's going on with you? It's probably your fault anyway. So my mom's sick. My mom passes away in January. My dad, who I'm estranged from, I haven't seen in a while, he actually passed away in, I want to say June. He got dementia and rapidly declined. So both my parents died within like the 6-month window.
Sorry. Hear
It's
that.
it's all right. I like to say I punched both my tickets, but I'm still going to see my kids, like when I'm not in New Jersey, I'm in Washington. I'm flying to Florida to go see my dad. Like, I'm taking care of business. Like, I'm really, really about it, and I'm making it happen. And things just continue to kind of go downhill with this relationship with her, despite me getting better. And I think if I had to guess, it's because, as I shed these other responsibilities that people run into in life, like now I have more time for my kids. Now I have more time to be that dad. Now I have time to say, well, I have an opportunity to have halftime. I can support them 50% of the time. Maybe we can reevaluate this arrangement that we have. I'm still doing all these things. I still even with my girlfriend, it was like, well, my kids are my priority. I'm going to spend as much time as I can in Washington. I want to coach their teams. I want to show up for their basketball games. I want to show up for their sports events. I want to be there for them. She's understanding of that. So I'm doing that. I'm doing these things. And throughout that, I run into some issues with my sister. And that's difficult because I find that people that dislike you and your energy will kind of come together and coagulate to, I hate to say the term, they hate on you, but it's true. People that don't like you will gather with each other and discuss how much they don't like you. Um, so between having some issues with my mom's house after she passed away and dealing with probate and having to start a lawsuit against my sister to resolve that, my sister got a restraining order against me for trying to sue her,
God.
which is crazy, right? So
Yeah.
so I wouldn't sue her. She got a restraining order, and then I had to go to jail for a couple days because after she got the restraining order against me, which wasn't no contact, it was no harassment, which I was never harassing her. Like, so when you're going to sue them isn't harassment. Um, I'll stand on that. But I after that, I was like, a couple weeks later, she unblocked me on Instagram, and I liked the picture of hers that came across my feed. Like I was trying to heal, and the police came and arrested me for that. They said that
No
I
way.
swear, I was in county jail for a couple days.
Fucking crazy.
I know. So I was dealing with that, and it was funny because when I was in jail, I don't know anyone's phone number. No one knows anyone's phone number. The only
Right.
phone number I knew was my ex, and I was like, what am I gonna do here? Am I gonna call my ex so I can tell my kids that I can't talk to them, or am I just gonna sit here and rot? So I called her, and she was cool about it, and then obviously later used it against me.
I was
Um,
just about to say that. Yeah.
yeah, it was weaponized very quickly. But like I said, I dealt with that. I moved on. I persevered. Like, what am I gonna do? I'm not
Right.
in charge. I'm just along for the ride. So after that, I was like, I'm not messing with my sister. I'm not messing with my family. I'm just gonna be solo. I'm gonna focus on me and my kids. I started, working on improving my relationship with my children, spending more time in Washington. I left my job at the library to pursue music full time and to have more time with my kids. In the mix of this, I'm a 100% disabled veteran. The tech, the idea behind that is that I'm too disabled to work. Now, I'm allowed to work because that is my prerogative, and there's different rules in the VA, but I'm allowed to work and have a full-time job, and I
Is
chose to do that.
Is that what when you were talking about quitting the library and then your lawyer was like, "Well, that's not going to fly for child support." Was that kind of a way to get around that a little bit? Like, are you paying less now because now you're not working at the library?
No, no. And as a matter of fact, my lawyer actually raised that with me. And I know, don't get me wrong, that you can't withdraw child support from VA benefits. Like I could just say I'm not going to work and not pay child support, and they can't do anything but put me in jail. But no, no, I had been at the library 5 years. My benefits that I get from that and the savings that I have allow I can still pay my child support and spousal
So you're still
support.
paying
So
the full amount that you were paying?
right. And actually when
Wow.
I talked to my attorney about it, that's where he raised the issue. He's like, if you go and say that, they're going to say you quit your job on purpose. And I was like, well,
Yeah.
that's so crazy. Like, so just because I went to school and I challenged myself and I did all these things because I have to pay this person this amount of money so they can live a better life than me,
Right.
I have to work at a job that I feel doesn't serve me or doesn't, make me happy every day.
Exactly. It's so wild hearing these stories like this. But I will tell you, it's like you should, if you're doing music now full time, you should turn that into some sort of LLC and get paid by that, and then that's your income that you're making. Then you can change all your stuff.
Yeah, yeah. My master's degree is in IT management, so I understand business acumen. Actually, I started an LLC because when I was leaving the library, I was starting a cybersecurity company, which I'm still working on and building slowly. And then I have a DBA for my music organization slash label, God's Special Sons. And then I actually started a nonprofit too because I want to do like music therapy. But yeah, I started. It wasn't just like I'm quitting my job to go be homeless and busk.
Yeah.
I've formed an LLC and advertising and things like that, but really in the midst of transition, it's new, it's difficult. No one
Yeah.
teaches you like to start a business. Like you have to know sales and marketing and you have to just sell yourself to people. You have to be willing to take losses. You take losses on things you don't know what you need. So yeah, no, it wasn't a plot, and some people do that. Don't get me wrong.
Hmm.
I am a firm believer that people should pay child support. Like
Oh
the
yeah.
money, not that it's always used correctly. I think that child support should be like on a card, like a HSA card, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah. So you can track what everything's going. Yeah.
I don't even want to track. The state should track. Like they're the one making me pay it. They should have a guy that sits around and looks at transactions. When you go to Walgreens and you try and buy Diet Coke with your FSA card, it gets declined. It's not
Right.
a medical item. I mean, I think that's a really easy solution. But
It's also
in
tough though. Hearing the amount that you have to pay that, and also for being divorced, it's just like she doesn't have, and not knocking her, not trying to talk shit on her, but just on the situation in general. Your spouse no longer has to work if she doesn't want to because she can live off of the money that you're giving her, and then but yet you also have to come up with that money plus come up with the money for you to live your life. It
right,
just it doesn't make sense, and it's just when is it gonna change?
right, and it's not even. It's on top of that, it's tax free.
Right,
It's
right,
tax
yes,
free,
tax free.
right?
Yep.
And then like I can't claim it on my taxes. I can't write off spousal support or child support on my taxes. It doesn't count against her income, so she still gets state benefits. Like she still gets food stamps.
Right.
The kids have state health insurance. She has free childcare because they're not counting or manipulating the money. So I'm taking every disadvantage as the man. She's getting every advantage, and there's
And the
no
Yep. And my bad. The problem with that, just like it was with COVID when people weren't going to work because they were getting paid by the state, is what's the incentive?
right, right,
I don't need to work because I'm living. I'm getting food stamps. I can do this the rest of my life.
right.
Why should I make myself better?
Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
with you 1,000%, and it's incredibly frustrating because like, and it causes these situations, right? So like, actually, most recently, we were so our agreement was when we first got divorced in 2023 was that we have a house together. I mean, my we're paying this house together. She's got 50% equity, even though she's not really contributing anything to it. So I have to give her half of it, even when we sell, which is fine. Yeah, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
But I was like, as we're getting closer to selling this house, she doesn't want to move. So I'm like, hey, we gotta sell this house. Hey, we gotta sell this. Hey, I really want to get some money out of this house so I can live. I'm giving you all my money. There's like 200 grand tied up in this house. Let me tap into that a little bit. But she doesn't want to do it because it would benefit me, of course. So most recently, we were dealing with some issues of things that she hid from me during the thick of our divorce. My daughter had reported a couple times that she was thinking about hurting herself, and my ex didn't report that to me, so that kind of flew under the radar. And just like just a lot of ongoings are like, all right, we got to reevaluate this situation. I want to sell this house. And most recently, actually, just a couple days ago, she went and got two restraining orders against me. So she went to the
Against you
court.
again?
Right. So she went to the court and said the same thing, right? So we've been separated for several years. We live in different places. Our parenting plan says I can't even go within 500 feet of the house that I own, like my name's on. But she went and got another restraining, and they entertain these things, right? So she goes and says I'm emotionally manipulating her by texting her about selling the house. I don't know how. She says that I'm abusing the kids and that the kids are saying that I throw things at them, even though she's never intervened in my custody time. She just let me take them to Hawaii. She's saying that my daughter is reporting that I'm touching her inappropriately, and that she's reporting to the court that my daughter's therapist instructed her to go get a restraining order against me, which doesn't make any sense, right? Therapists are mandatory reporters. If a kid's come to you and say that, you call the police.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So she's saying these things and the court entertains these things. So now I have a temporary restraining order against her, and she's trying to like stop me from contacting my kids. And I just actually went to court earlier this week about it, and they're like, well, we don't know what's going on, but we have to, err on the side of caution. I'm like, we just did this. Like, we just
Right.
did like less
They
than
get
2 years ago.
these they get these stories every single day. I went through the same thing as you're going through, the same accusations, everything. The court gets these, so many guys, it happens. It's like, you think the court would be like, you're going to have to send some proof or send something before we just fuck up this guy's life again, over some accusations. They get it
Right.
all the
And
time. It's just crazy to me.
I don't get me wrong. Like the commissioner and they seemed interested in what I was saying, and they seemed to be like, yeah, this seems messed up, but I still have to err on the side of caution. Well, like, what about the trauma to my children? Like, what about
Yep.
someone putting the thoughts in my daughter's head that I'm touching her inappropriately, or that I'm throwing things at them, or that I'm some kind of abusive monster where she's actually scared of me? Like, what are you doing to my relation? Like, I can't get that back. Like, so you're erring on the side of caution in favor of this woman who's done this already. Like, you don't even have to go far. You can look. The documents are still fresh. Like, she accused me of all these things and then said it wasn't important anymore. And now we've had 2 years of no issues, and I get accused of them again. Like, it doesn't make sense. And it's crazy that, do you know how much money the government has? Do you know how, like, where our tax, I don't know why school administrators make $250,000 a year, but the government can't hire someone to be an adult in the room and do a little bit of background on someone
Oh,
when they're
of
getting
course.
accused of something crazy.
Yeah.
Even CPS, like I had to do an interview with CPS, and they were incredibly more thorough than the court system. Why doesn't put CPS in charge if they have the resources to investigate these things? Like, someone comes for a restraining order, give it to the restraining order team. Like, what are we doing? We're investigating, trying to punish people. Let's try and lift people up. But yeah, like, it's crazy. I sat in there for 5 minutes, and people are just getting accused of just wild things, and it's just like, all right, can't see your kids this month. You'll get some makeup time next month, though, I hope.
And it's just so bad for your kids. I mean, even you still have, it sounds like, trauma from your childhood, from what happened, not growing up really with a father and all of that. It's like, think about what this is going to do to your kids. I just don't understand why, you know, these women are willing to unless they're not thinking about it, but are willing to put their children through something like that.
It's incredible. One of the books I read when I was first getting divorced was like, you have to love your kids more than you hate your ex, and I
Hmm.
stand on that.
Yep.
I would never ever, despite all the things she's done and said, but I would never prevent my children from seeing her. I would never prevent my children from calling her. I would never want my children to think she's anything more than a good mother. But like, it's so traumatic. Like, for me, like, I got this restraining order on like a Tuesday, and like my son texts me, he's like, "I love you, Dad. Do you want to play Fortnite?" And I don't even know if I could text him back without going to
Right.
jail. Like, so
Yeah.
now he's like, my dad don't love me. My dad don't want to talk to me. I'm like, what the fuck what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And the courts, it's just, it's so sad that, and it's not even isolated. Like you said, you went through it. Every guy I meet that's been divorced, 95% of the people I meet that have been, have dealt with these same things. It's like, when is enough enough? Like when are we going to say men aren't fucking monsters all the time?
Right.
Like a lot of us just want to be good dads. Like, and we were talking about child support. Like, I understand people not wanting to pay child support because it's hard. Like, I
Mhm.
live in this 800 square foot apartment, and my ex lived in a 3,000 square foot house. Rooms are empty. My kids still sleep in the same bed as her. So she's got everything. I've got nothing, and I'm supposed to do it with a smile. So yeah, so she went and got this restraining order again. Now I've got to pay child support, spousal support. I got to get an attorney. Just a bunch of things with that. Luckily, they said that I can talk to my kids, but like I had to stop. I can't volunteer at my kid's school now. So
Oh, no
now,
way.
yeah. Well, I
That's a
mean,
brave
not
one.
permanently, but the judge said
Right,
because she
right.
accused me of crazy things that I can't volunteer at my kid's school, which is wild.
Yeah.
Like all right, there's more mandatory reporters in the school than here.
Right.
There's a camera in
Yeah.
every classroom,
Yeah.
so I can't do that. I'm coaching a basketball team at the YMCA. My kids are they tell me if my kids come up to hug me, I have to tell them, "Hey, this is nice. I love you," but I can't interact with them. Like I have to keep just like what is that? What are
God.
we doing?
Yeah.
What does that teach my kids? Dad not only left years ago, and mom told us all these awful things about him, but now when he sees us in public, he's embarrassed of us. He
Right. I
doesn't
mean, you
want to
kind
love
of
it.
said it earlier. You were like, it's more damaging for the child for you to turn them away or do something like that than it is on the accusation, you know?
Right, right. It's like this is actually causing harm. Like you're saying like I'm being accused of causing them harm, and now you're going to cause them harm.
Right.
I'm being accused of psychological drama and things. The police haven't intervened. Like, do you think that if my kids were interviewed by CPS, which is awful, I feel terrible about
Yeah,
that.
it
But
sucks.
do you think if the CPS came to my kid's school and interviewed them and found any basis of these claims, that they would have let me continue to have them?
Right.
Like they're obviously about business. Like they're obviously doing some background homework. Like why isn't the court doing it? So that just feels terrible. But luckily, I have a good attorney. I've kept my attorney on retainer since because I knew that selling our house and kind of trying to break up this thing was going to cause an issue. Luckily, I'm gonna sneeze. When I had talked to I had just talked to my attorney the week before about what it would look like if I said to the court, "Hey, I'm a disabled vet. Like, I don't have to work. I'm trying to pursue this thing. I'm making less money." And he was like, "Well, they're not going to let you do it because they're going to say you're underemployed. But now, because she's raised the issue, we're going to get to revisit it. Hopefully, the what it's worth." When I was in court this most recent time, he was very skeptical about the things she was saying. It was just like, I think there's this idea, especially with women, that all you have to do is accuse these people of a bunch of stuff, and men, now we're just fighting for our lives. Like how can I address these accusations when you're accusing me of every single thing, right? So now instead of trying to fight and like stand on my name, I'm just trying to like not lose everything, right? So during the first go round, I was like, I'm not going to risk the court taking away my children. It's accusing me of being in these crazy things, but now it's like I got to fight it. So her accusations are just wild, and she's bringing up things from 2 years ago. So like I'm gonna reaccuse you of these things that I already dropped. And the judge was kind of skeptical about it. He's like, "Well, your paperwork's a mess here. You're not really making a lot of sense. You're saying you were scared of him, but you let him take your kids to Hawaii. Like, what's that about?" And you could tell she's starting to get a little frustrated. And that is, I had mentioned to my attorney, some people have never been held accountable.
Hmm.
And I hope and I pray that, I mean, obviously we're going to have to go to court and deal with that, but I hope and I pray that someone will look at this and say, all right, this second time doesn't make sense. The first time it was kind of iffy, but this time,
Enough's enough. You know what I mean?
right. But it's hard to be hopeful, right? Like I get on this Facebook and like it's everyone with the same thing. Like people
Hmm.
are like losing their children, people's exes are moving to different places, people are getting denied parenting time, and there's nothing you could do. Like, and it's not even like empty allegation. So here's a really good example of how he got here with my ex was I had right my ex because I have this apartment here and I only had my kids like a third of the time when we were transferring, we had a really cordial relationship. Like she would pack the kids' clothes, then we bring them here, and it doesn't make sense for me to keep my kids' clothes here that they like, right? I wouldn't want my kids to be at their mom's house and say, "I want this thing at dad's," and I don't get to see dad for a couple weeks. So we were doing it back and forth, and she just unilaterally decided she didn't want to do that like a week before I took them on vacation, so she was like, "Oh, I'm not giving you any other clothes. You have to buy them all new stuff." And now I don't even care about that. Like that's
Right.
fucked up. And like I wouldn't bring that to court, right? But our parenting plan specifically says you cannot do that. So I went to my attorney and I was like, "Hey, like, look, it's right here. We wrote it down. I can't do that." No. And he's like, "Well, the court's not really going to make her or get her in trouble for that." So like, what are we doing?
Right. But also sitting there saying to your kids, "Oh no, you can't bring that to dad's house." You know what I mean? You got to go with nothing or
Dude,
whatever on your back.
and it's there's so many layers. Like first, my daughter's texting her saying, "Hey, can you bring me my clothes?" Like I don't have any clothes here. Like, and she's yelling at me saying that I'm getting the kids involved. I got nothing to do with that. You're like my daughter wants her clothes. Like I can't. And then the other layer is that when I'm trying to talk to my daughter about it, she's telling me my daughter said to me that the things mom bought, mom owns. It's like, well, hold on. So dad pays mom a lot of money for you to have nice things. So that's number one. Number two, the things that mom and dad buy for you belong to you. So your clothes are yours. No one else owns them, right? So like me and my daughter are fighting about this. Like, where are you getting these ideas about possession? Like we've got so many issues with physical goods and like being spoiled. We've got issues with like possession of things and like the children shouldn't be involved in that at all. And the third thing is that like why did we write this down? Like, why did we spend, well, not we, why did I spend thousands of dollars to play this court game, to write the magic incantation on the magic paper, to file in the magic place, and then none of it matters anyway?
Right.
Like, there's
Yep.
nothing I can do about it. Like, my attorney said usually you need two or three cases of contempt for them to do it. Like, why didn't I get that? Why don't I get two or three chances? Why, as soon as someone says something about me, I lose everything. But when something's documented, like we can't do this, like it says here, you agreed, your signature's on this. There's no repercussion. And again,
And
think
that's what's going to keep them going and going. They're going to keep doing it and keep doing it, dude. I literally went through the same thing. Brought evidence to the judge, showed him, slap on the wrist for her, nothing really done. Did it again, slap on the wrist. Like you just get so frustrated. It's like, what the fuck is happening here?
right, and then in the Bible, it said God hardened the Pharaoh's heart, and I think about that so much. Like it makes me upset. Like now,
Hmm.
I I could go hire 10 lawyers. I could go do that. Like I could just get my credit card out and I could get every lawyer in the state to file every bit of paperwork. But who does that benefit? It doesn't benefit my kids. I'm gonna steal them from their, not steal them, but it's like I'm gonna punish their mom. I'm just gonna keep her in court till she doesn't have any money and now she's, has nowhere to live. I already put one lawyer's kids through college. I'm gonna put
Right.
some more lawyers' kids through college. I've
Yeah.
spent,
It's
50,
gross.
60 grand in the last
Yep.
couple years fighting things that are easily unfounded. It doesn't take a lot to look. I used to say this, like if you just took our resumes and you were hiring people, you would just hire me. Like
Right.
it's not a knock. Like I'm not trying to put my ex down, but you would hire me every time. 10 out
Hmm.
of 10 times I got the credentials on paper. Like if you just sat down and looked at it, if anyone looked at it, but no one looks at it. And it's again, it's not to knock the people that are involved in that system. I'm sure that the judge goes home and cries in his pillow every night from the weird stuff that comes across his place. I'm sure that, and I know that the way it was explained to me, would you punish the 99% that these are basic accusations to protect the 1%? And it's an incredibly difficult question. Some of these situations are founded, but if we're getting it wrong so much, like if there are so many men and children being raised, and like look at the cycle, right? I got here because my dad wasn't around, so we're gonna do another instance of that. Like we're gonna put my kids in that same position where their dad's not around. Like obviously we're doing something wrong.
So some
So
people also don't have the strength and the heart to keep going forward. Like you have been pushed down, pushed down, pushed down, pushed down, but you keep getting back up and you keep moving forward. Some dads say fuck it and they give up and they're like, I'm just, you know what I mean? The kids are going to be better off with their mom. I'm out. I can't deal with this. Now that kid is growing up without a father. I think when you said 99% to the 1%, I think it's doing more damage in the long run than it is, not.
it is. I agree 1,000%. And like the reason that I'm I'm here talking to you like is because there's so many people that do give it's incredibly hard. Some of us, all we ever wanted to do was be a dad. All I
Yeah.
ever wanted to do was be a good dad who played Legos with my kids, who coached their teams, who showed up. And like, despite doing the right thing, leading myself dry to do therapy, to do counseling, to do family therapy, to volunteer, to elevate myself and, get degree, my dad dropped out of high school. No one in my family, my mom has a bachelor's degree, but no one in my family ever started their own business. No one on my family ever, really poured themselves into bettering themselves. And like you do all that and it's still taken from you because of things that happened to me in the past. And on top, like those things weren't even my fault. Like I
Yeah.
didn't choose to have bad things happen to me. But I feel so deeply for like I'm so blessed that I can even afford an attorney. I'm so blessed that I have the wherewithal to say, you know, I'm not gonna go crash out. I'm not gonna go in here and yell at this judge. I'm not gonna go in here and freak out. I'm going to court because I'm getting accused of something. And while I'm in court, I'm getting another restraining order from someone I'm already restrained from.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make sense. But I can see and I the system is designed to I don't know what. The system is designed to empower women to do whatever they want. And I hate to say that, but I, as a matter of fact, like I know women that have gone through like happy divorces, and even they are like disgusted by the system. Like it's so easy. Like, has he been doing it? Do you want a restraining order? Do you want us to go to his house and take away his legally owned weapons that the state gave him and approved him for having? Do you want us to like prevent him from seeing the kids ever? Like maybe we can just go have visits where the police are standing right over you and staring at you so that everyone feels uncomfortable. And it's like, it's just so weird. Like, who
Yeah.
made these? Like, who designed this? Like, it's incredible. And again, the stories I heard every single, like, I can't even get in this chat sometimes because, like,
I know.
every single person is just like, man, my ex is doing this, my ex is doing, and if you look at the statistics, if you look at the statistics, children are much more likely to be hurt or assaulted or violated by their mother's new partner than their own parent, by people that are at their school than their own parent, by some stranger on the street than their own parent. So why don't we take some of this energy that we're using to deny fathers their time and maybe we could strengthen our relationship with our fathers, maybe we have dads at school volunteering, we instead of I mean we've been doing it so weird for so long. Like obviously the nuclear family has kind of gone away and like fathers roles have been like removed and now you get into conspiracies, but we think about like the drug epidemic, like that disproportionately affected males and black men, right? We think about how this system is designed to disproportionately affect males and men. You think about the military industrial complex, right? That's specifically designed to impact males. Like you join that. I think about this so much. So having PTSD on I've had four restraining orders attempted to be had against me, and every single one mentioned I had PTSD. Do you know where I got that from? From the military. You know who told me to join the military? The US
Right.
government. Like I did if I like they will call you a hero.
Hmm.
They will lower the flag. They will ask you to stand up at the beginning of the ball game and thank you so much for what you did for this country and the things that you signed up to do, and then they will use it against you. They will say he's a monster. We taught him to hate brown people and want to kill them, and now he wants to do it. What are we like where is that coming from? And what's crazy is that everyone I met in the military fucking loves everyone. They're super chill.
Right.
Like I had the biggest problem in the military with like why are we shooting poor brown people? They're like that doesn't vibe with me. But they use that and they say you're wild and you got these problems. And as soon as someone accuses you of something, it's over for you. And the other thing, I know we're running out on time. The other thing I wanted to say is that I when I went to court for my sister to get a restraining order against me, and they were like, this is harassment. And I'm like, well, no, it's not. But I was like, what do you think is more harassing? To sue someone for something that they're doing wrong, or to send the police to someone's house claiming they have PTSD and behaving erratically. Like one is using the legal system as it's been presented to me properly. One is a death sentence. Like, do you know what happens when the police show up at your house and they've been told you've got PTSD? Even if you legally own your guns and you've
Right.
done
Oh
all the
yeah.
background
Yep.
checks, that is a death sentence. Like, I was terrified. I told them, like, you're not meeting me at my house. You know, you can go. I got to hide a key. You could go get whatever you want at my house. I'm not meeting you there. You're not about to shoot me. And it's like, again, you know, there's obviously exceptions to the rule. Don't get me wrong. There are
Hmm.
very, very, very unstable people out there. But again, that's a reflection of America's belief on healthcare and mental health and mental acuity. And the fact that I mean, it's easy to see someone crashing out the way that men are treated, the way that veterans are treated, the way that fathers are treated. And like you were saying, this cycle that we're in where it seems like the system is set up to keep people stuck on child support, on spousal support. I didn't even know this, but the state gets a match. So
Oh yeah.
when you pay child support, the state gets a match from the government, the federal government for the child support that people pay. So
Oh, it's a
it's in their best interest, right?
yeah. They make billions of dollars a year.
It's obviously there's some people that are good, but I never seen a broke lawyer.
Right.
I never seen a judge in a beat up Civic. You know, nice they got on nice clothes. They're going home to their family. You know, and it's just it's backwards. You know, I actually I got accepted into law school because I was going to go to law school to deal with like well, not to sue everyone because I really wanted to go to law school so I could defend people that have been abused by the system. I had to defer that to spring of next year, but that's my goal, you know, like the system. Imagine the system being so fucked that I want to not work in IT anymore. I don't even want to do music anymore. Like I want to fight for the people that have no voice. There's a couple interesting ways to become a lawyer in the United States. In Washington, actually, you can just understudy. My favorite attorney hasn't been a lawyer. They have to have been an attorney for 10 years. So I told them in 3 years, I'm just going to come work for you for a while and become an attorney. But you can actually, in some states, so there's this cool method where you can start a business that hires lawyers and then you can technically like practice law. It's just weird.
Yeah. There's all those loopholes for everything.
Right, right. It's like the tax system. No one really knows how it works.
Right.
It's just interpreted on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, it's something where like I can see and I definitely understand that, you know, it's impossible. Every day feels impossible. You know, I wake up every day. I got this big old blanket with this picture of my kids, you know, that I sleep with, you know. Sometimes I make my dog gets so mad because she's huge and she doesn't want to sleep in bed with me, but I'm lonely. And it's like on top of
Yeah.
that, just real quick, like even dating, like I'm so lucky, like I found my partner and she's willing to like understand the things I was going through. But like even dating, like it doesn't just ruin your own life. Like
Oh, it
you get
affects everything around you
you
for
get a
sure.
restraining right, you get a restraining order against you. You can't date. Like I'm gonna go somewhere and say, yeah, my ex got a restraining order against me. She said I did all these crazy shit. Like then no one wants to date that. Like so now I gotta be alone and now I gotta carry that with me for the rest of my life. And then and this is a fun one. I can't tell my kids. Like I can't tell them how we got here. Like and the judge even said that to me. Like he's like you can't discuss this with your children. Well, what the fuck? You tell them that. You took me
Dude,
out of their life, yo.
you know what's
You tell
crazy?
them that.
So same thing with my situation. I was fighting with my ex for 6 years. Same thing. You can't discuss anything with the kids. I would praise my ex up to my kid. Like I would never say a bad thing, blah, blah, blah. Complete in text messages. She's telling our kids about our court situation, everything. And I'm showing to the judge and I'm just like sitting there like, you're yelling at me because you think that I'm saying things to our children. You told me not to. I do not. I have not. I tell my kids to love their mom. She's great, even though I fucking hated her. And it's like, but yet I have proof, text messages, everything of what she's doing. She's saying, "Oh, take pictures of dad, take video of dad, and send it to me." It's like, how is that not mentally messing with the children? And you're cool with that? So
But
it's so frustrating, man. I know exactly how you feel.
1,000%. She accused me of stalking her, right? So our parenting plan says I can track the kid's location. I don't know if you have an iPhone. When I open my iPhone, it'd be like, "Hey, your kids are here. Like, here's your Find My." So
Hmm.
a couple days ago, I signed my daughter up for a class, and I was seeing if she was logged into it on my phone, and I saw that she was in a parking lot of a store, and I messaged my ex. I was like, "Why? Like, she's supposed to do a class. She can't do a class." In a store, an art class. Like it's not like a book club. Like it's like an art class. Like she needs to sit and do it. And she's like, "You're stalking me." So she goes to the court and she's got pictures of her tracking me on my kid's phone.
Right.
She's telling them where I
That's
was.
literally stalking.
Right. Like she's got pictures of she's asking my son, she said that I let my son get burnt in the bathtub a couple months ago. She's got my son on camera holding up pictures of his arms like he's going to be burnt and scalded. Like call 911 if you think that that's the case. Don't make him take a picture. What are you doing? But they entertain it. It's like and it's not even that, it's that there's no repercussions for making false
Right.
accusations, right?
Right.
There's
Dude,
no so
that's why I started the podcast. I was so angry and upset because no one was doing anything. And so I started talking. I'm a videographer, so I started doing all this stuff. But me and my oldest have such a strange relationship now because of like I was very loving, like she loved me, everything.
it's your
Now
daughter,
it's
right?
yep, my daughter, I go to hug her and she's like, gets nervous. And she'll never know until she's older, like what really actually happened, because I'll never say anything. But it's
Right.
crazy, man. She has ruined my relationship with my child.
And I just said this to my attorney, and he's like, my daughter, the unfounded claims, that of me, doing anything to her, but like, I can't tell her. And then on top of that, like, I can't be alone with my daughter. I'm scared to be alone with my kid because she thinks that I did something to her, whether it's her mother told her or she's a child and got these things in her head. Like, my relationship with my daughter's ruined. I can never get, and I hate to say ruined, but it's significantly
How it feels.
impacted. Right. It's like, I can't. I'm scared to sit next to my daughter. Like I'm scared to go in her room at night and give her a kiss on her head because I'm scared that she's gonna think I'm being inappropriate because she was told that. Like, and I can never get that back, and I can't say like imagine like sitting down with your kid and like look at all this like your kid would listen. The judge don't listen, but your kid wants to know. They want to know, they want to feel that hurt. Like they want to know why my dad didn't love me. Like imagine I sat down and I said, "Look at all these things your mom said I did about you." But then I'm the monster, right?
Right. Yep.
then then I'm wrong and then I'm held accountable for it. But there's no repercussions for making false allegations. Like and the judge they even wrote in this new parenting plan, they're like, you might get makeup time, we might revisit the parenting plan. How about some jail time? How
Right.
about we punish people that abuse kids? You're
Because
trying to protect these
yep.
kids so much, protect them then.
That's 100% because she'll stop doing it if she starts going to jail or something happens to her. She'll absolutely stop doing that shit.
And her with money. Tell her that she won't get child support no more. That'll
Yeah.
change it. That'll change it around. Make
100%.
I think that if you're gonna take
That's a good
someone's
incentive right there.
right, take someone's kids away from them, make them go to therapy. Right? I had to do forensic reports. I have to go to therapy every week, which I don't mind. I love it. But like, if I'm going, she should go, right? Obviously, there's something wrong with this relationship. Like, it takes two to tango.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's incredible. And like having a daughter and like imagine your daughter thinking that this is a way to go about life. To take
Right.
advantage of men and
Yep.
to get child support and to get food stamps. I cry at night because I go to pick up my kids sometimes from school and they've got these bags of lunch and snacks to take home over the weekend. Like, do you know how much money
Right.
that the state and me are providing that my kids are taking home bags of food that are meant for people that are food insecure? Like it hurts me. And it's not embarrassing to need help. It's embarrassing to lie to get
Hmm.
help when you don't need it. And like that those resources could be better used. It's insane. And then, the same it goes the same way. Like the IRS knows how much money I owe them, right? The IRS knows all my income. They don't care about the outflow, but they know.
Right.
So someone knows where my money's going, right? Someone can see the government knows where I am right now. They can see my bank account. So it's not hard to connect these two things. Like
Right.
like
Someone needs
we
to come
live in a
out
modern world.
with that app or something. Someone needs to figure
Maybe
that one out.
yeah, I mean I gotta make a list. I got a list of apps I need to write to improve the government.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's crazy. Like I said, you could be me, you could be a veteran, you could be a doctor, you could work at the library, you could never have anyone accuse you of anything in your whole life. Never had more than a speeding ticket my whole life, and you can just lose everything because someone decided they don't like you today, and they're gonna say that you're a monster. It's sad, and I'm glad that you're doing this, and I love to hear people. Well, I don't love to hear people's stories, but I love to hear stories like with a positive outcome and like
Yeah.
people that recognize like it's not fair, and it's never going to be fair until we speak up about it, until we, elicit change.
Yeah. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on. I think a lot of dads hopefully will take away from this that you keep getting beat down and you're just improving every time. So it's like, those dads who are feeling that type of way, like it's, the end of them. It's really not, it's what you put into it, and just get better. Work on yourself.
Yeah, man, I hope so. I think, a lot of the energy, a lot of the hate and the frustration and those feelings that I had for my ex, I put into music. I put
Mhm.
into therapy. I put into going on a run. I'm going to try and do STP again this year. I try and channel and focus that energy. Even like, just real quick touch on, like focusing on yourself and not focusing on other relationships either. Like no woman's going to fix you. There's no alcohol's not gonna fix you getting high. Man, I love smoking weed. Don't get me wrong. I love to get high, but that shit is it's escapism. Like
Yeah.
you have to face it. Like that all that stuff, like those lessons, you gotta use them. So I hope that people I hope it resonates with people. Anybody that wants to talk, I've had dudes from the group call me, and I gotta talk to them for an hour on the phone. Call me, I'm in the chat. But I appreciate what you're doing, man. I appreciate you letting me tell my story. And if you ever, if you ever do a weekly thing, you just want to. I know some guys that don't even have kids that get accused of things. So if you ever just want to have like a group talk about it, I'm down for that. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks.
Me down, you can hold me down. You can hold me down. You down.